is North Wiltshire's Conservative MP, James Gray. Mr Gray, morning to you.
Morning, Matthew.
Average price is 11 times the average salary. That's not really an acceptable figure, is it?
Well, it's something that we're all very worried about. Of course, we have large numbers of people needing housing across Wiltshire. I see people in my surgery week by week by week, overcrowded, looking for a new house, and it's almost impossible to find them to buy. And we've got to find a way of providing more housing for local people.
Well, there are plans to build lots of new houses under the Labour government. The strategic strategy, I think the spatial strategy, that's what it was called, and the coalition government has done away with that. So how are we going to find these homes?
Well, what the Labour government proposed to do was to build, for example, 5,000 houses to the east of Chippenham. They proposed to allow Swindon to expand westwards to engulf the villages and towns down the east side of my constituency. They proposed to allow 1,000 houses in Malmesbury. People locally don't want that, and that's not actually what's needed for local housing. If you built those houses, allowed the developers to do it, all that would happen would be people would flood in from elsewhere across England. You've got to remember that in England today there are 840,000 empty houses across England, not in our area, elsewhere. And actually, just by providing vast quantities, thousands and thousands of houses in Wiltshire, that doesn't help anybody at all.
Do you accept
our
that?
Our duty locally is to provide decent housing for local people, not for people from elsewhere.
So you would need to build some houses then. How do you build the local houses for local people, as you put it?
Well, absolutely, we have got to. And actually, we're rather better in Wiltshire than we are across the rest of the southwest. There were 688 housing association houses built last year, and Wesley Housing Association locally, they're a first-class housing association. They do a great job. And we also have to find places to put them. It has to be up to local people, local councillors to decide where and how many. For example, we're all very concerned at the moment about the possible closure of RAF Lynham, and I still hope we might get the army to go there, and we're fighting hard on that front. But if we don't, maybe, just maybe, a few houses, a good number of houses for local people, low-cost housing for local people on some part of the site of RAF Lynham might be a good example.
How do you keep it to local people there? How do you do that? Because, you know, don't you end up with people saying that's some kind of discrimination if you're saying, well, we only want people from this certain area? How would that work?
No, not discrimination at all. The local authority and the housing associations have a duty to provide housing for local people. You have to prove a local connection. You can't just walk into my surgery and say, I come from Newcastle and I want to come and live in Wiltshire. I just say, well, I'm very sorry, you've no right to have a local house here. You can buy a house, of course, anyone can. But in terms of local authority provision or housing association provision, that's only for people with a proven local connection.
We still do have a big gap here, though. I mean, you just mentioned these 688 housing association homes built, but there are currently over 12,000 people on housing waiting lists in Wiltshire. There's a huge gap.
Well, there's a huge gap indeed, and as I say, I see people all the time looking for housing, and we've got to find a way of making a greater provision for affordable housing of one kind or another, not just rented incidentally. I think some of the Wiltshire Rural Housing Association, for example, do very, very good shared equity type deals. There are exceptions, rules in villages. We've got to provide more local housing, but we don't do it just by plonking an enormous great housing estate in the middle of the countryside, which is then populated by people from elsewhere.
Just one final quick question, Mr Gray. Should we accept that owning your own home is sometimes a dream that many will never be able to achieve?
Oh, most certainly not, no. I mean, something like 90%, I think it is, of people in Wiltshire own their own home, and thank goodness they do, and people are proud of that. An awful lot of people, for example, in former local authority housing now own it, and that's absolutely great. No, we have to find a way of making sure that people have the ability to own their house. I'm very strongly in support of shared equity, for example, and shared ownership, allowing people that pride in ownership. Although there'll be other people, like myself, incidentally, who rent.
OK, well, of course, that is the other option, which many people still do and will continue to do. Mr Gray, thank you. James Gray, the Conservative MP for North Wiltshire, who'll be attending the launch of that report later on today, the report from the National Housing Federation.